Good evening, dear students. How are you all? I hope you all are fine and doing good at your home. Before going to start today's topic, I have few lines for you. दुष्यंत कुमार जी की कविता की कुछ लाइनें आपके लिए। हो गई है पीर पर्वत सी पिघलनी चाहिए, हो गई है पीर पर्वत सी पिघलनी चाहिए, इस हिमालय से कोई गंगा निकलनी चाहिए, इस हिमालय से कोई गंगा निकलनी चाहिए। हंगामा खड़ा करना मेरा मकसद नहीं, हंगामा खड़ा करना मेरा मकसद नहीं, सारी कोशिश है ये कि सूरत बदलनी चाहिए, सारी कोशिश है ये कि सूरत बदलनी चाहिए। मेरे सीने में ना सही, तेरे सीने में ही सही, पर आग जलनी चाहिए, पर आग जलनी चाहिए। इस जुनून के साथ, इन पंक्तियों के साथ आप सभी में भी एक नया जोश होना चाहिए। Whenever you are preparing for your final examination, you should have start from the beginning because there is no substitute for hard work. और अगर आप हार्ड वर्क करेंगे तो अवश्य निश्चित ही सफलता आपके कदम चूमेगी। So my dear students, today we are going to start another very interesting topic of body fluid and circulation part 2 and class 11th human physiology. We will talk about today circulatory pathway. The circulatory patterns are of two types: open circulatory system and closed circulatory system. So when I'm talking about open circulatory system, in this the blood is pumped by the heart through large vessels into open spaces or body cavities called sinuses. Example, it takes place in arthropoda and mollusca. In some other organisms like Annelida and Chordata, they have closed circulatory system in which the blood is pumped by heart, is always circulated through a closed network of blood vessels. All the vertebrate possess a muscular chambered heart, pumping organ. Fishes have two-chambered heart with an atrium and a ventricle. Amphibians and reptiles, except crocodiles, have three-chambered heart with two atrium and a ventricle. Whereas crocodile, birds, and mammals, they possess four-chambered hearts with two atria and two ventricles. You can just observe these diagrams. In the first diagram, you can see it is three-chambered heart, one right atrium, left atrium, and ventricle. In the middle diagram, you can see it is two-chambered heart, one ventricle, one atrium. And in the third diagram, you can see this is four-chambered heart, which contain right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricles, and arteries and veins. So now we will talk about human circulatory system. So when we are talking about human circulatory system, heart is a main pumping organ, which is mesodermally derived organ and situated in the thoracic cavity in between two lungs, slightly tilted to the left side. It has a size of clenched fist. एक मुट्ठी बंद कर दूं मैं, उसके साइज का है हमारा हार्ट, प्रोटेक्टेड बाय डबल मेम्ब्रेनस पेरिकार्डियम, जिसके अंदर पेरिकार्डियल फ्लूइड भरा हुआ है. Our heart has four chamber. Two relatively small upper chamber, जिनको हम कह रहे हैं, you can see here two relatively upper chamber which are called as atrium, two relatively large chamber which are called as ventricles, and upper chambers, two right atrium and left atrium, they are also separated by interauricular septum and intraventricular septum. Ventricles are separated. The walls of ventricles are thick because pressures in the ventricles is also very high. The opening between right atrium and the right ventricle is guarded by the valve, which is formed of, when we say, three muscular cusps, so it is called tricuspid valve, and bicuspid or mitral valve is between left atrium and left ventricle. Right ventricle opening into pulmonary artery and left ventricle into aorta provide with semilunar valve. The entire heart is made up of cardiac muscles, and we know the properties of cardiac muscles, they never fatigue. Then we have SA node, which transfer the impulse, the action potential, to AV node, then AV node to the Purkinje fiber to the bundle of His, and this is how this help in the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the heart. And our heart beat approximately 70 to 75 times per minute, and in average we say it is 72 beats per minute. Then we talk about blood vessels. We know that arteries and veins are the two main blood vessels. The arteries carry the blood from heart to the different part of the body, and generally they carry oxygenated blood, but there is an exception. Pulmonary artery एक ऐसी आर्टरी है जो डीऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड को लंग्स तक ले जाती है साफ करने के लिए. इसी तरह वेन्स ऐसी ब्लड वेसल्स हैं जिनमें डीऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड होता है, एंड दे कैरी द ब्लड फ्रॉम बॉडी पार्ट टू द हार्ट. बट देयर इज आल्सो वन एक्सेप्शन. There is a one vein, pulmonary vein, which carry oxygenated blood. Then we have cardiac cycle. The heart pumps the blood to all the part of the body. The changes that takes place in the heart during the one heartbeat together constitute the cardiac cycle. The heartbeat at an average rate of 72 times per minute. The total duration of the cardiac cycle is 0.8 seconds. During a heartbeat, the contraction and relaxation of atrium and ventricles takes place. The phase of contraction is known as systole, and the phase of relaxation is called as diastole. So thus a single heartbeat consists of a systole, a diastole of both atrium and ventricles. So when we talk about cardiac cycle, then we simply say cardiac cycle comprises of arterial systole and ventricular systole. So what will happen when we are talking about arterial systole? Simply when we are saying the blood from different part of the body, it enter into the atrium. For example, the deoxygenated blood from different part of the body through superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava, it enter into the right atrium. And the oxygenated blood from lungs enter into the left atrium. Then these atrium will contract. Both of atrium will contract, and the blood from right atrium goes to the right ventricle, and blood from left atrium goes to the left ventricle. And now the ventricles are in relaxed state. So all the ventricles are filled with blood. So the blood from right ventricles need to be supplied to the lungs for purification, and the blood from the left ventricle supplied to the different body part through aorta. This is how the whole cycle of the blood will take place. It consists of, as I have already mentioned, it is made up of arterial systole and ventricular systole. When I'm talking about heart rate and cardiac output, heartbeat is about 72 times per minute. Duration of each cardiac cycle is 0.8 seconds. During each cycle, each ventricle pumped approximately 70 ml of blood, which is known as stroke volume. The volume of the blood pumped out by the heart, each ventricle in 1 minute, is called cardiac output. The cardiac output is approximately 5040 milliliter or 5 liter in a normal individual. And when I'm talking about heart sound, generally we say it is dhak 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 dhak, but it is not dhak 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 dhak. It is lub and dub. Lub sound is produced which is associated by the closure of tricuspid and bicuspid valve. And dub sound is produced, dub sound is produced, and it is associated with the closure of semilunar valve. Then we have electrocardiogram. It is a graphical representation of electrical activity of the heart during a single cardiac cycle. And we call it as electrocardiogram, and with a machine we measure it, it is called electrocardiograph. You have seen in most of the movies when a hero is lying on the bed and you can see a monitor is there which is clearly indicating the sound pip 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 pip. So this is actually a electrocardiogram, and which consisting of P wave, QRS wave complex and T wave. So it will clearly indicate, the doctor can easily check with the help of ECG that आपने देखा होगा एक लंबी सी रिपोर्ट आती है जिसमें ECG बहुत सारी साइकिल्स को चेक किया जाता है, and if there is a abnormality, for example, the end of the T wave marks the end of the systole. It has been observed that by counting the number of QRS complexes that occurs in a given time period, one can easily determine the rate of heartbeat. And if the heartbeat will increase or decrease, that really tell you or tell the doctor, or doctor will get to know that there is some problem in this particular part of the heart, and he will diagnose a disease and treat you. Then double circulation. The mammalian heart is 4-chamber, undergoing the process of complete separate double circulation. So there is a two type of circulation. One is pulmonary circulation. Pulmonary circulation means in this system the blood completes its circulation from right ventricle to the left atria through the lungs. And when I'm talking about systemic circulation, the pure blood is supplied to all the part of the body, and deoxygenated blood is again returned back to the heart. That's why the blood flows twice to the heart. It is called double circulation. I have mentioned that there is a need of separation of oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood in mammals and in birds, because the energy requirement is more in higher animals like us, like in human beings. So we cannot afford the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. So there is a clear-cut differentiation between clear-cut separation of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood to supply the more efficient supply of the energy to the body. Then regulation of the cardiac activity. So human heart is controlled by a SA node. We have already discussed this nodal tissue. So it is called myogenic, auto-regulated. And there is a center in the brain, medulla oblongata, which have autonomic nervous system. This autonomous nervous system has sympathetic part and parasympathetic part. Sympathetic part is responsible for increasing the heartbeat, and parasympathetic part is responsible for decreasing the heartbeat. This is how they are controlling the heartbeats, depending upon the energy requirement of the body. When we talk about disorder, high blood pressure, generally we are saying the person is suffering from high blood pressure. कहते हैं जी BP बढ़ गया इसका. तो BP बढ़ने का मतलब क्या है? Hypertension is a term for blood pressure that is higher than a normal value 120 to 80 mm of Hg. If it become 140 or 90, then we say high blood pressure. When it become less than 100 and less than 70, then we say it is low blood pressure. Coronary artery disease. Coronary artery disease, often referred to as atherosclerosis. It is caused by deposit of calcium, fat, cholesterol in the fibrous tissues, which make the lumen of artery narrow. Artery का lumen पहले से ही narrow होता है, और ज़्यादा lumen narrow हो जाएगा तो blood flow में problem आएगी. Angina. So when we are talking about angina, a symptom of acute chest pain when there is no enough oxygen reaching the heart muscles. Heart failure. Heart failure means a state of heart when it is not pumping the blood effectively enough to meet the need of the body. Congestion of the lung is also a symptom associated with this. Heart failure is not the same as cardiac arrest when heart stop beating, or a heart attack when the heart muscles is suddenly damaged by an inadequate blood supply. So this is how we have discussed about the second part of human circulatory system. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Thank you so much.